Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that two of them think doing a podcast called Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea is a pretty neat idea. They are Jeff and Bryan.
Hey Jeff, it's great to talk to you. We're back and it's part 2 of Doctor Who and the Krikkitmen.
Yes, it is. Part 2. Part 1 was just riveting, wasn't it?
If you mean a steel spike through your head, yes, riveting. That's
right.
What
All right. So this is chapter 19. It is from A to Not to Be. They're on this planet and they're just strolling through a city and everything seemed nice enough and they found a domed building and they unlocked it and then they went in and it's filled with people standing with their eyes closed.
The Cricket Planet, yeah?
Yeah. So I guess we didn't say that. Well, if they remember from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's it. They got great memories, our fans. You know, they know everything that we're thinking.
What planet is this? All right. The planet they're on is Cricket. Yeah. So, as they get into this dome and everybody's got their eyes closed, the doctor basically says hi and caused pandemonium.
Oh,
they were being chased and shot at, and they came upon some figures in cloaks gesturing to them, and the figures prodded them with sticks to a forest, and those in the cloaks asked them questions. Romana asked if they could point them in the direction of some rebels, and one of the women in a cloak explained how they are not morally against aliens, just was disgusted by how repulsive they are, and they also just happen to be the rebels. So the first people they come across are rebels when that's what they're looking for, because I guess the only way they're going to get the people of Cricket to change their mind is to find the people who've already started.
You got it.
Chapter 20 is a short history of the rebellion on Cricket.
Very short.
So here we have this rebel leader who is pregnant and talked with the doctor about how she plans on saving the planet. And they were disappointed when they learned that the doctor never has a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how the rebel leader said that they were aware of those trying to save the universe, but expected his costume to be more armored or figure-hugging or to have an insignia on his chest.
Right.
The big rant in this section was about paperwork being a sentient life form that survives by using camouflage of hiding in plain sight because everyone has a tendency to ignore it.
Right.
That was very Douglas Adams-like in his description of paperwork.
Yep, they tried to sneak in just a little bit of that stuff here.
Yes.
The someone else's problem field.
Right.
Or the peril-sensitive sunglasses, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned that after the war, when the people of Cricket were all confined to their planet, something changed. It used to be that the planet was all that they knew and all that they needed. And now that they are confined to it, it feels like a prison. Also, they know that there's a rest of the universe out there just going on living. So plans for an ultimate weapon were developed, but its creation was hampered. The doctor hoped it had a big red button because ultimate weapons usually have a big red button. And doctor and levers and buttons, and they're always big and always red, just is a theme that runs through this.
Right.
So I guess there were two opposing groups as rebels. The Balance of Nature Party, and their platform was basically something bad is bound to happen if you wipe out everything else. and the veterans of the Great Cricket War. And their platform is they spent a lot of time out there with the aliens, and some were captured and had why screamed at them over and over again. And now they couldn't come up with an answer.
Oh, subtle as a brick, huh?
Planet of Cricket is going out and they get captured, and the only question they're asked is why. K9 explained that the slow time envelope has been opened and Krikkitmen are to arrive soon. The doctor said that they had time, and of course, a Krikkitman arrives right at that moment. Chapter 21, A Marriage of Inconvenience. The Krikkitman was the husband of the rebel leader. He told them his name is Sir Robot and made them some tea.
Good tea.
Good tea, yes. He had manufacturing errors and was tossed out. The rebels found him on a scrap heap while scavenging for spare parts. Production of Krikkitmen was stopped because something was wrong with the manufacturing process. The Doctor and Romana were devising a plan to save the planet and stop the ultimate weapon. But the Doctor needed to know what it was called. He was told it was the supernova bomb. And the Doctor laughed. Then he stopped laughing when he realized that he's already heard of it. Chapter 22, Parliament of Fools. So the Doctor, Romana, and K9 and the rebels all go to Parliament looking for the ultimate weapon. So they're looking for the ultimate weapon, the plans for it, and a clue to how to defeat the Krikkitmen. The rebels were sent to create a distraction and were attacked. The Doctor and Romana head to the lower levels and come across a locked security bulkhead. As Romana is trying to hack the lock, Krikkitmen arrive and start shooting. One of them shoots the lock and the bulkhead opens. They go in the vault and shut the door, and they search for the files for what they are looking for.
Right.
The Krikkitmen blast through the door, and they reveal a ventilation shaft that the Doctor and Romana were able to escape through with a folder full of plans. As they looked at the plans for the supernova bomb, they noticed that the plans were incomplete. They are confronted by a Krikkitman. There is so much manufactured peril or danger that doesn't seem real. I don't know. It's
right.
I don't know why the danger doesn't ever seem to be there.
Right.
But they're running for their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of those scenes, like you say, that it seems like they're trying to encapsulate and create, little short storylines that they could film, and I don't really understand the necessity of that when it's supposed to be a novelization of a story. But again, the only thing I can think is that this James Goss does mention that he liked the way that the original, well, not the original, but the small, short Doctor Who stories began and ended in a short length of time. So I guess he's got this rhythm in his head and his rhythm in his writing that almost prevents him from writing a larger, longer, interrelated story. And
right.
Especially these chapters where it's all Romana and the Doctor, I really don't get the feeling that Adams had that much to do with any of this part of the story.
It's hard to believe that he did. It really is. But I don't know how long the serial that he wrote was. Like when he wrote the serial for the TV show, they can be 6 episodes long. Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes they're longer. But I don't know how long it was. It certainly wasn't 42. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and generally when it's a pitch, like they use, we're talking pages.
Right.
We're not talking dozens of pages. We're talking 3 or 4 pages that gives the pitch of the whole arc. And like you say, is it 6 episodes? Is it 3? But clearly this story, if it were ever to be produced and put on to some kind of media, it would be hellishly long.
Yeah. So chapter 23.
Are you ready for the big pun?
Oh, yes. Oh, you mean in this
A
chapter?
big pun. Well, yeah, you can't get past the chapter title without the pun.
Oh, right, yes. Chapter 23, Birth of a Notion. So, in the last
All right,
chapter...
enough said.
In the last chapter, they're confronted by a Krikkitman, and it's supposed to be all this danger, and then K9 just arrives and saves them in this chapter, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And then they meet back up with the rebel leader who's going into labor, and she's about to have her baby. The doctor is sent to get paper towels from the bathroom, and he stumbles into the Chamber of Shame, which has the ringings of the Cathedral of Hate.
Right. I still don't understand why it's titled the Chamber of Shame. I mean, who's
shame?
Shameful here?
I don't know.
Yeah, who's shame?
Because all Doctor does is he watches a presentation of what happened when the spaceship crashed on their planet and discovered that the ship never had a pilot.
Right.
And the Doctor arrived with the paper towels just as the rebel leader delivered twins, a girl and a boy. So there was not shame in that Chamber of Shame.
Yeah, and it didn't make any sense to me. That title, anyway, didn't make, because it should have been their Chamber of Triumph. I mean, it was they discovered this ship and became technologically important and developed everything they needed to do to go out and destroy the world, blah, 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 blah. They weren't ashamed of what they were doing.
Right. At this point, after the rebel leader has delivered her twins, is the most Douglas Adams thing in the book. Do you have it written down?
No.
The Doctor is helping deliver the second twin, and after he is born, the Doctor tells the mother not to pick a favorite.
Right.
At least, not until after they have left school and one has expressed an interest in management consultancy.
Yes. I didn't pick that up, but that's a
he
very
does
good
not
line.
like management consultants.
No, that's a good point. I love it.
After the twins are born and Sir Robot arrives, the Doctor announces that the museum does not house erect spacecraft. It houses the model of erect spacecraft. So I'm wondering if that's the shame, that it's a model and not a real spaceship.
Except that they don't recognize
merit.
That. Yeah, that it doesn't track,
right.
Because the cricketers don't recognize that. Only the rest of the universe does, or only at that moment only the Doctor does.
Right. So then we get chapter 24, a Brownian study. Now Brownian motion and all of that. So
tea time.
Douglas Adams just shoehorned in there.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor was sitting alone in the cold trying to make tea, and there were no plugs on this planet, so he just threw away his kettle. He was attempting to heat the water with his sonic screwdriver when Romana arrived. And his mug shatters because it got too hot.
Right. So here's another one of those time travel paradoxes, and they're talking about this. Apparently the person who invented time travel for the Time Lords was Rastalon, I believe his name was.
Yes.
And he said that there was a limit to the time that they could travel back to.
Correct.
Being Rastalon's birth. And there's a whole big thing about, well, Rastalon didn't want anybody to go past his birth or past his life in order so that he could be who he was, and that no one would ever attempt to change him. So he created this artificial barrier. But then they make a big deal about the TARDIS flying through this barrier and having turbulence and rough time, blah, blah, blah. It just silliness.
Well, when I was reading this, I heard it as the Rassilon limitation of time travel was that you cannot go back to a time before time travel was invented.
Right.
So that would mean, hey, Bryan, I've got this time machine. I just invented it. Hey, let's go back to yesterday. Sorry, you can't, because I've got a limitation that you can't go back farther than the day it was invented.
Yeah, and for me, that's like, do the zombies walk fast or they walk slow?
Zombies
You know,
walk
a
slow,
stupid,
but when there
a
are
stupid
fast zombies, they're
distinction.
terrifying.
Oh, yes, they are terrifying. But the whole point is, if you're going to have time travel in a story, why have a limitation to it? Right?
Right.
What's the point of that?
Well, are you a
You
fan
know,
of Quantum Leap?
and here they even destroy it because they say, oh, yeah, well, he said we couldn't go back this far, but let's go back this far.
Right. Are you a fan of Quantum Leap?
I liked Quantum Leap, but again, I'm still, when it comes to it, I'm more of a fan of the multiverse concept of time. And not even that. I've been thinking a lot about that because I watched a couple of those multiverse shows, and I was thinking to myself, you know, a lot of the folks who promote the concept of time travel or a multiverse say that every time you make a decision, if you said yes in another universe, someone says no, and they go forward with that universe. But that kind of limits some kind of a branching effect that every universe branches off of another. And I'm more of a fluid type of multiverser, that there is an infinite amount of universes and an infinite amount of directions that those universes could flow. So it doesn't really lend itself as well to a linear existence or a linear storytelling plot, because everywhere you go, it can be different. And what I think is interesting about that for me personally is that I'm a Star Trek fan.
Right.
And a lot of Star Trek fans are rigidly opposed to anything that deviates from the original canon. But every one of the shows that are out currently or have been out more recently have deviated from that canon. And they've done so by saying we are in a different universe.
Right. Yes.
And that universe is more parallel to what we understand today or the way that we live today. I mean, I really like that approach to being able to allow these things to exist on their own and still be entertaining and enjoyable.
Right. Right.
As we diverge.
For those, well, I wanted to go back and clarify. For those who are not familiar with Quantum Leap, there's a guy in Quantum Leap who's righting the wrongs of the universe going back in time.
Mm-hmm.
But he's limited to his lifespan.
Right.
He cannot go back farther than the day he was born. So he can correct anything that happened during his time of life so far. So that is a limitation that I thought was a nice, easy limitation that's plausible and understanding a reason for it.
Right. Right. Well, if you have to create a limit that's just as genuine a limit as there could be.
Right. Yeah. So now we are to chapter 25, Interruptions to a Great Mind.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
was
they
I
get
doing
to
that?
the mighty computer. Doing what?
Interrupting your great mind.
Oh, no.
I like to
All
believe
right.
so.
Yeah. They get to the great and mighty computer room of Alovia.
Mm-hmm.
So now they are on the Silastic armor fiend planet of this book.
Right.
And Hector was the greatest spaceborne computer of all time. And he was spaceborne because the vacuum of space was needed to cool its processors. Because Hector was in space, the great and mighty computer room of Alovia only contained a speaker for his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Alovians consider themselves the supreme race in the universe, but biologically, they were a mess and not nice to look at and seemed to cough up internal organs all the time.
Right.
Which just went way overboard.
Oh, I was going to say exactly that.
I think it's Gauss's attempt at a Vogon parallel.
It was something, but you're right. I think it's overdone. It's almost disgusting.
Yes.
In its repetitiveness and yuck.
And it also made it seem physically impossible for them to be what they're described as being destructive-wise.
Right.
You know, it's if their bodies are falling apart, how can they be a destructive force in the universe?
Or even the pinnacle of evolution as they imagine themselves to be.
Correct. So it was just very weird.
Mm-hmm.
So since they did not want to deal with any other alien life forms, they asked Hector for a way to get rid of them. Hector suggested a virus. That was rejected because all those other planets would just be there cluttering up the universe, and some other life form would eventually come slogging up and evolve, and then they'd have to get rid of that too.
Mm-hmm.
So they just wanted to get rid of all the planets and the suns. They wanted a minimalistic look. They confront Hector and called him a liar and say he is stalling. So to watch Hector's great lie, they go forward in time to the day of the great unveiling of the ultimate weapon.
Right.
And this scene is very reminiscent of Deep Thought and The Answer.
Mm-hmm.
When Hector heard that the Alovians wanted the supernova bomb as a deterrent more than wiping out creation, he decided to give them the plans. And Alovians asked if he had actually created one, and he had, and he gave it to them. And they were disappointed in how small it was. And the Doctor and Romana arrive and say that they want to take a picture with the bomb.
Right.
And this is a real goofy, stupid slapstick scene.
Yes.
Which, again, doesn't make any sense for where they are.
Not a bit.
They're not with this timid, pushover race of people.
No, they're supposed to be with these horrible people, yeah.
Yeah, and they do this, hey, I want to take a picture, and they hand a camera and get the bomb, and it's all just weird.
Mm-hmm.
So they think they're going to steal the bomb, and the bomb was taken back and passed from Alovian to Alovian, and the Doctor was goading them into using it, but it was a mysterious voice that caused the Primo Alovian to use the bomb. What was the mysterious voice? Was it Hector?
I don't know.
They don't ever really specify.
Nope.
They just talk about this mysterious voice, and then maybe it comes back way in chapter 40 or 41. They might explain it again, but...
Yeah, I wondered whether that was the reference or not, but it's not really clear here.
Yeah. That single line about a mysterious voice is a lot to remember at the end of the book.
Oh, heck yes. And this is where the whole spaghetti monster of a story really starts to spaghetti.
Right. Yeah. So then chapter 26 is further interruptions to a great mind, because the Doctor laughed because nothing happened when he tried to set off the bomb. Hector was a liar. The Doctor knew it wouldn't work.
Right. They did use that nothing happened repeated thing of Adams's here again.
Yes. So Hector put a small flaw in the design. I like the little philosophical bit about life here, where Hector said that life was easy to wipe out, and since it is so fragile, it must be valuable and hence protected.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice little explanation of a philosophical reason of why I'm not going to destroy the whole universe.
Right.
I'm not going to because it's too easy, is basically what he said.
Right. I did think it was kind of interesting that Hector says here, I told you so, right at the end.
Right.
Which, when they describe the matrix of the Gallifreyan Time Lords, they say that the sum total of their knowledge is, I told you so. So this is like a repeat of that,
right.
You know, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I liked how Hector said that the Alovians may be the most advanced race of the super civilization, but history is going to see them as nasty, squabbling infants.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it for Hector.
Right. He was done.
Because a barrage of missiles were launched
mm-hmm.
and wiped him out. Then there was the domino effect. The debris from Hector blocked out the suns, which caused a potato famine, which meant sacks of potatoes were no longer available to release aggression, and the Alovians turned on themselves and destroyed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And as the last bit of Hector was being destroyed, he heard a mysterious voice. In his dying moments, Hector learned something remarkable. And it's like, and that's it, and if that is answered later in the book, it got lost on me.
It's not clear.
There's so much foreshadowing of stuff that's supposed to be important at the end.
Right.
but there is no possible way to remember, or when they reveal it at the end, this part isn't called back into mind.
No, you're right. You are right.
So chapter 27 is cell division. So they leave Alovia and they go back to Cricket, and they call their civilization a fraud. You know, that's a great way to just get them on your side. The doctor points out that the ship is of an Alovian design, and they just happened upon the plans of the supernova bomb, and the doctor said the plans were fake. And Romana disagreed, which made the doctor incredulous. And I thought that it was great how Romana said that they were real plans for a fake bomb.
Right.
So, they're not fake plans.
Right.
They're real plans. It's just for a fake bomb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Semantics is important.
Yes, semantics are very important. The doctor tells them that their planet has been manipulated to come to a point that they would want to use the bomb. So they have to stop the Krikkitmen, and Sir Robot pretends to have the doctor as his prisoner. I was really hoping to hear resistance is useless. When he was marching the doctor, I really wanted resistance is useless.
Yes, that would have been
When
good.
the doctor was telling Sir Robot how to handle a prisoner, you know, jostle him around a little bit and poke him with his gun. But on that, of all the other little references that he puts in to make people go, oh, I know that, resistance is useless there would have been perfect.
It would have been.
And not as shoehorned, forced in as a lot of his other references.
Right, exactly.
So the doctor wants to get into the room where he believes that the Krikkitmen control button is located. Sir Robot acts as a distraction. The doctor gets around all the Krikkitmen and says he can't find his prison cell. Romana arrives and gets herself arrested too, and she hears the doctor screaming in another room and is about to be tortured. Romana is not worried and keeps questioning her torturer. He brings out a mind probe that is humming with energy. Romana, being a little suggestive, tells him that if he puts that on her, she will die of embarrassment. So I thought that was a pretty funny line.
Yep.
That Romana is saying, you know, if you probe my mind, I'll die, but I'm going to die of embarrassment. So in chapter 28, Caught in a Really Big Lie, the mind probe fizzles out, Romana slips her bonds, takes the probe from her torturer, initiates some repairs, all while explaining it, and then plops the now active mind probe on her torturer, and he collapses. I hate scenes like this that are just, how can they possibly get out of this? And then it's all just so simple.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Right. My absolute favorite scene of this type, which had me on the floor, is from an old show called UFO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Not sure.
It's a ridiculous comedy show. It's called UFO. Anyway, the whole group of them are in a submarine, and they're way deep underwater, and something is going wrong. I don't remember what. If water was rushing in, they've lost power. It's inevitable that they're going to die, and then it goes black. The next scene, they're all back at the base, sitting in a conference room, laughing, going, wow, that was a close one. Can you believe we got out of that? No explanation of what possibly could have happened. Yep. It was like they died, and then it was like, whew. So that to me was a perfect parody of this type of scene. She slips her bond. It's just ridiculous. After the torturer collapsed, the doctor and Romana were both being transferred, and they pass in a hall. And we find out that the doctor's screams were really an alien language, and the doctor was updating Romana on the situation. So there's an entire race of people that communicate by sounds that appear to be screaming in pain.
Okay, that works.
They jump off their gurneys and they disable the robots that were moving them, and then they are attacked by many Krikkitmen. I seem to have a limit on the ridiculousness I can take before it bothers me.
Yes.
It's okay to be silly,
Mm-hmm.
but keep it reined in.
Yeah.
There is a goofy scene where Romana asks the doctor to grab her ankle in 2.3 seconds. Then she jumps between two Krikkitmen who shoot at her just as the doctor pulls her back, and they shoot each other. She then tells the doctor that he was late, but don't worry because she factored that in. It's like she knew exactly how late the doctor would be in his 2.3 second pullback, so factored that in. It's like, oh, come on. Right after we have to do that whole other beginning stuff, that just like tipped it over the edge for me.
Right.
So they break into the parliament and they inform them that they have been victims to the biggest lie ever told. So chapter 29 is the sharp-sighted watchmaker. The doctor explains that they have a god who they do not know about because the god does not want to be seen. And here the doctor points out the conditions of Krikkit. A, its isolation. B, its mental block preventing them from even speculating that there was anything outside the dust cloud. C, the odds against a wrecked spacecraft crashing on a planet. D, the rapidity in which they mastered the technology. E, their single-minded obsession with total annihilation of alien life. F, the Krikkit robots were mistaken for sentient life, so were not destroyed. G, in the isolation in the slow time envelope, they have become a lot less single-minded, and how now that it is gone, they are single-minded again. The doctor called it divine intervention.
Jeez.
A woman elder comes up to the doctor and spits at his feet. She says he has a point. She shows a projection that the supernova bomb has been completed. The doctor tells them the bomb is a dud. The timing of the Krikkitmen arriving just as the bomb has been completed is a little too coincidental. They were sent by the god and been sent to end all creation. A Krikkitman used his bat and hit the bomb. So there's a whole lot of just, I don't even know what to say about this. It's just the doctor. It's chapter after chapter of the doctor being the smug smartass that he always is.
Right.
But not entertaining smartass.
No. I don't know what to tell you. Really, at this point of the story, the notes become scarce on the ground. It's like you were saying before, it's like all plot, no humor, but it's twisted, oddly arranged plot.
Yes. As I told you before we started, I had my notes with everything is in black is summary, and then anything that I think is a tangential thought and commentary, I highlighted in red.
Right.
There's very little red on the rest of these pages.
I know. And how many chapters you got left? 11?
About, yeah.
Oh, jeez. I'm holding on to my seat. I'm at the edge of my seat.
Yeah. Chapter 30 is God Has a Plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, the universe did not end, and the doctor laughed. The Krikkitmen stopped because their program ended when the bomb was struck. So we hit the bomb, that's the end of our programming, and everybody stopped. The woman elder said the Krikkitmen just needed new instructions, and the rebel leader bursts in holding a gun and pushing a pram with her twins. I don't know the necessity of the pregnant rebel leader and the birth of these twins, and now she's got to rescue the universe pushing a baby carriage. It's too much.
We'll make it. We can make it. We can get to the end.
Yeah. The woman elder screamed, "Kill them." And the doctor and Romana run for their lives.
Once again.
Pushing the pram.
Okay. Chapter ends.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened? The woman elder kills the chief elder and takes his throne and orders all the Krikkitmen to go to war. Chapter 31, the first 11. Romana goes to Gallifrey in a cricket ship to warn Gallifrey that the Krikkitmen were going to war and were coming to Gallifrey first. Normally, Gallifrey was safe from any ships other than a TARDIS, so Romana had to show them that the Krikkitmen had a Gallifreyan technology and could breach their protections. So the Krikkitmen battered the barriers and they switched off. The fleet suddenly found that the city where they were attacking was not there. Romana turned off the barriers and took the energy from the barriers and used it in planet rotation. What?
Yeah.
So she shut off the barriers and used all of that energy to rotate the planet so quickly that the attacking forces didn't realize that they didn't destroy the thing that they were attacking. That was the weirdest thing that I'd come across.
Well, it only gets odder from there, right?
Yeah, I know. Here they do mention that 12 war TARDISes were built for the Krikkit War, and of course 1 was lost, and 11 were placed in storage. So Romana and the leader of Gallifrey released the 11 remaining war TARDISes. Chapter 32, The Iron Lady. Romana was going to take care of the Krikkitmen, and the doctor was going to deal with the god. Romana went back to Lord's cricket ground, and it is still on fire, and she tried to find out who was in charge of the planet. She goes to meet the Prime Minister and tells her the Earth is about to be invaded and asks if she is the ruler of the planet.
Right. And that's supposedly Margaret Thatcher at this point, right? And her friend Ronnie.
Yes. Yes. Romana finds out that there is no single person in charge and the UN would take 3 days to convene. She wants nuclear weapons, but the British nuclear weapons are on submarines, and she is told of the Star Wars defense system of the US, except it is targeting the planet, not space.
Right.
There was a little part in this chapter that I did get a little chuckle at because of the shoehorn forced Douglas Adams reference, I believe. While Romana is talking to the Prime Minister, it is mentioned that the Prime Minister just got back from a conference in Belgium.
Right. Yeah, well, there
There's
you go.
no other... You don't even have to make any kind of real reference. You just have to put Belgium in there, and people who are familiar, they know.
That's right.
Chapter 33 is Danger into Escape. Romana and the Prime Minister leave in the cricket ship, and the Krikkitmen set out to first destroy all the worlds that held one of the sacred objects, or pieces of the key, and they arrive at Earth. As they arrive, the Earth explodes. Romana tells the Prime Minister that it looks worse than it is. So Romana detonated all of Britain's nuclear weapons at the same time, and she is harvesting the energy of the blast while putting the Earth in a force field. The cricket fleet was caught in the force field and is always moving, but going nowhere. Romana continued on searching for Krikkitmen while the Prime Minister went to her press conference. So that was a little bit of a weird... Another one of these, what do the people of Earth think is going on with this giant explosion and frozen ships and all, just... Because in Doctor Who, all this stuff seems to happen, but the people of Earth are pretty much oblivious except for a select few.
Very few, yep.
But that would be a hard thing to, conceal.
You would think so.
Chapter 34, Saving the Universe. This is a very short chapter that talks about being everywhere all at once. It also introduces Cardinal Melia, but mentions no more than that he was a pilot of a war TARDIS. And the Doctor is trying to figure out why a god would not want to be known and hide in a dust cloud. He then wonders if the god is the dust cloud. In Chapter 35 is This Just In from the Universal Conquest. This chapter starts out talking about a craft landed on a beach in Krikkit and 2 people got out. Then it says, in the interest of suspense, we will have no more on them until later. I like hearing the kernel of an idea that sounded like it was adapted and made into the Hitchhiker's books.
Right.
But I don't know what came first. It's like, did Goss add that or was it in the original?
Right.
And every chapter brings me more and more wanting to know what the original material was.
Yeah, I wish I had some kind of an idea too, but I almost get the impression that it's like 99% Goss and 1% Adams.
That's the feeling that I get. It's like he took an outline and
exactly,
wrote a book.
Exactly. And he basically almost says that in one of the interviews that I watched, him talking about the particular production. Actually, it was the novelization of the Pirate Planet, which is an episode written by Adams for Doctor Who.
Yes.
But again, Goss novelized it. But in that case, you had a number of scripts to work from.
Right.
And the original material to work from. And the show. So it's got to be better.
Yes. If you are doing a novelization of an existing TV serial, you cannot deviate too far.
Right.
You fill in gaps.
Right.
This didn't exist, so he had free reign to screw it up however he wanted.
I really would love to hear from a Doctor Who fan, especially a Doctor Who fan who's actually read this book, which I can't even imagine there are many out there, but there has to be, because I don't know whether the Doctor Who part of the story rings true, feels good, what they actually think about that.
Right. The Krikkitmen are going from planet to planet. They left Earth, and now they are on the planet with the Great Khan. On the planet with the Great Khan, they never named that planet. So on the planet with the Great Khan, a Krikkit battle fleet arrives without warning. On the fishing planet of Devlin, the appearance of a Krikkit battle fleet causes a crisis. The planet of Marivi 2 was attacked and destroyed as they all bickered and argued with each other and got very offended. On Beth Salaman, Alman looked up at the sky and saw approaching battle fleet that were blocking the sunset. He had his first negative thought. Tourists. And back on Krikkit, the 2 mysterious figures walk into Parliament and introduce themselves. They are Ridgefield and Wedgwood. 2 weird bickering people. Who do they remind you of? Your 2 favorite people from another book.
Yeah.
So Ridgefield and Wedgwood were there to worship the new god, and they wanted to know if the people of Krikkit had decided to name or have decided on a name and a gender for their god. The new female elder chief informed them that they do not believe in the god. When she was told that they were offered a variety of worship management services, she asked, "What pray are those?" Was that a pun?
Yeah, I think that was a pun.
And is it one that she would have used since their people never had a god and then would not pray?
Oh, I'm sure it was just a translation error.
Oh, could be, yes.
Oh my gosh.
They're trying to market the new god for profit since the universe is about to be destroyed, and they need a logo. Chapter 36. All dogs go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So the Doctor takes the TARDIS to the middle of the dust cloud. The Doctor calls heaven. They exit the TARDIS and are confused. The Doctor saw that he appeared to be in deep space and in a meadow. And K9 was both in deep space and on a perfectly flat surface, which was perfect for him to move around on.
Right.
The Doctor, in order to prove his hypothesis, said loudly to K9 that all he needed was a deck chair. Short while later, he came across a deck chair. Earlier in the book, the Doctor complained to Haktar about the difficulties he had unfolding deck chairs, and this one unfolded easily.
Yes.
So the Doctor's got his suspicions, and he's checking it, and then the Doctor finally tells Haktar that he knows it's him, and he knows that Haktar was not destroyed and just spread around a bit. The Doctor wants an explanation for why Haktar is destroying the universe. His original purpose for designing the supernova bomb was so the Alovians could live in peace. But the Alovians have destroyed themselves and are gone, so that reason doesn't apply. It can't be so the planet of Krikkit can live in isolation, because they were doing that already. Haktar said he is doing it because it is neat. Okay. The Doctor asked who persuaded him in the error of his ways, and Haktar appears to the Doctor as a computer terminal. The Doctor asked Haktar if, since he could make these illusions, could he make real things? And Haktar admitted to making the ship. He can encourage and suggest matter fragments to come together. When Haktar realized he was still alive after the Alovians tried to destroy him, he decided to carry out his original function of destroying the universe. Because what else is there to do? Haktar was destroyed and left in a crippled state for billions of years, and he said that that type of endless existence makes one think of wiping out the universe might be fun. He was destroying the universe for a laugh. So that is just really, really tough chapter.
Mm-hmm. I'm slogging through it. I got my hip boots on, but I'm going.
Yeah, this computer having a motivation for revenge because they tried to destroy him, but really didn't. And if you want, you could possibly argue that they set him free.
Right.
By making him be able to do anything or go anywhere, where he should be like extremely happy and excited. He now has freedom to do whatever he wants. His answer to that is to destroy everything. I'm not quite sure why that sequence of events happened that way.
Nope.
Chapter 37, Turning It Off and Then On Again. So back on Krikkit, Ridgefield and Wedgwood are running after the Elder, asking about slogans and copywriting beliefs. They then go on and talk about the problems that happened when the wheel was attempted to be copyrighted. Wedgwood had claimed he had created the universe, so wanted royalties. They are still looking into a little discreet plaque on every inhabited world, and that reminded me of Slarty Bartfast's signature on the glacier.
Right.
Anyway, the Elder walked into her new office where Sir Robot was, waiting for her with a message from the Doctor. He wanted him to tell her something clever. Chapter 38, All Dogs Go to the Dogs. The Doctor was asking Haktar if he minded that he failed again, and he boasted that if you are clever, you can get your opponent to do all your work for you. I'm going to go off here for a second that the explanation of what he does, this is a really long, drawn-out way for something that seems really clever that doesn't make any sense. But we'll get there.
Yep.
Sir Robot told the elder that the doctor has turned all the cricket robots off. The elder doubted that, since the ones in her office were still active.
Right.
But she had to check. So she ordered them to dismantle Sir Robot and told Ridgefield and Wedgwood that a robot told her that all the robots had been deactivated. And since the robot was faulty, she had it deactivated. And Ridgefield and Wedgwood wanted to know if there was any truth in it, since it might interfere with their timetable. At this point, they held up a chart that made me think of those fundraising charts that look like a giant thermometer.
Right.
That at the top of it, it said, "End of the universe." And the red part is gradually going up.
Yep.
So she sends a robot to Control to see if the robots had been switched off. On Cricket, a robot went to Robot Control and checked the switch. It was set to off. The labels for off and on had been switched. So when the Krikkitman turned the switch on, all the robots turned off. However, the weight of the Krikkitman, since he was leaning forward, made him fall on the lever, turning him back on. And then he's like, "Oh, we're off." And then he turned them on again, off again, or on again, which turned them off. So there's this Krikkitman leaning forward, doing an on-off with the switch. And the doctor had just said that if you are smart, you can get your opponent to do all your work for you. So now there's this loop of turning itself on and off, and some vague explanation about the length of time of the signal is the same, but the action speeds up, and feedback loop. And if this was true Doctor Who, they would have worked in reversing the polarity, but they didn't do that.
All you got to do is reverse the polarity.
Yeah. So the power circuit of every Krikkitman caught fire and exploded. Here it mentioned that robots cannot believe 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Uh-huh.
This just pissed me off.
I'm
like, this has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Oh.
It's like a leftover line. He said, "Oh, wait a minute, that's still on my list. I got to stick that one in here somewhere. Oh, here's a place."
Yeah. If there was ever such a thing as just fan service, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I have my biggest question. And it's more of a multiple choice question.
Okay.
The doctor used masking tape and a felt tip pen and changed the labels of the switch so a robot would think the switch was off when it was really on, and then turning itself and all the other robots off when it thinks the switch is on.
Mm-hmm.
My question is not why the logic circuits of a robot are so bad that it confused the mislabeled switches, but it's why didn't the doctor just turn them all off when he was there relabeling them?
Yeah, that seems to be an obvious flaw in this particular arrangement here.
He can get in there and relabel the switches?
I'm sure he was waiting for a dramatic effect or something,
Yeah.
right?
He wanted to show how clever he was and have the robots do it for him.
I guess.
So after all of the robots exploded, Haktar was resigned to the fact that he was going to be dispersed. He was ready for oblivion. The doctor said that dispersing him is what got them in this mess in the first place, and that there's probably a little bit of Haktar in every computer, even K9, who denied it.
Right.
The doctor realized that he has been being played by Haktar and that he could not have beaten him so easily. He decided to not keep talking with the computer illusion. He walked over to a willow tree that was in the meadow and behaving suspiciously, and he knocked, and it opened.
Of course it did.
Of course it did. So there was this willow tree that remained perfectly still, even though everything else was flapping in the breeze of the meadow.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 39, Everyone Should Have a Spare God. The willow tree was a war TARDIS. The missing war TARDIS. What do you know?
What do you
Here
know?
It is.
There it is.
The doctor and the doctor and K9 got trapped inside,
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor has a conversation with the War TARDIS, who took the form of Romana.
Mm-hmm.
The War TARDIS confirms that it set up everything. When the Cricket War ended, the War TARDISes would be put away. It caused the Second Cricket War to free them. So the War TARDIS was disappointed that all of his friends were locked away, so created the Cricket War so they would be released to stop the war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way I felt.
I have no idea how this fits in, but the Doctor and the fake Romana are walking or strolling to the edge of infinity.
Yeah.
And the Doctor thought it was a springy floor, but when he looked down, he saw he was just standing on nothing.
Right.
And he said, I should panic. So here's another leftover line that he's trying to cram in because he's getting to the end of the book.
Uh-huh.
So the War TARDIS rescued Hektar and repurposed his supernova bomb to show everybody the truth about the universe, the way the people of Cricket found out about the universe all those millennia ago.
Right. So this is supposed to be a reference to the total perspective vortex, I guess. But I didn't really get it. I don't understand what truth was the bomb going to reveal to the universe that would make them crazy. What truth? What was it?
My understanding is that the universe is infinite, and therefore there are an infinite amount of stars, but the sky still looks mostly black.
Okay.
And that's because there are a lot of gas clouds that are blocking, like there are gas clouds in the blackness that obscure other suns.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to use the supernova bomb to get rid of all those gas clouds.
Yeah.
And the sky is going to go from black to white. Like every star is going to be able to be seen from all these distances. And the sky is going to go from, oh, look at all these stars to, oh my God, look at all these stars.
Okay.
So there would be almost no more nighttime on any planet because the night sky was going to turn white because no star would be obscured.
Okay.
He called it turning the lights on.
And the fact that starlight takes time to travel, like thousands of years to travel from some place to another.
None of that has anything to do with anything. Yeah, no.
So the fact that even if he flipped a switch, it would take billions of years for some of those people to actually see the.
Well, now you're talking astrophysics.
He's playing a long
that
game.
Stuff doesn't work. Yeah, he's playing but that wouldn't be turning the lights on.
Oh, jeez. I still don't get it. But I mean, I do get what you're saying. It makes perfect sense what you said. I agree with the way you described that as the effect of what he intended.
But the properties of light
would not act like that.
The properties of light don't work that way.
No.
When you remove the barrier, it still has to travel the distance the barrier was.
Right. Yeah, this whole part of the story, like the tree in the meadow, just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
This is where they left Douglas's world and said, we got to have a lot more Doctor Who in here somewhere.
Right.
And let's stick it right here.
Chapter 40, The Great Knot. The Doctor told the War TARDIS to take him and K9 home. In the control room, the Doctor put on his coat that was hanging on a hat stand. It seemed a little heavier than normal. And what do you know? He found a cricket ball in his pocket.
Oh, gee.
Sounds kind of familiar. Like you said, the end of this is like exact.
Right, exactly.
The Doctor is thinking about being told earlier that he was going to meet 3 gods.
Right.
After the 2 he has met, Hektar and the War TARDIS, he is not sure he is ready to meet the 3rd. And K9 tells the Doctor that he's probably already encountered the 3rd god,
right,
the one who will decide the fate of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3rd god is got to be the Doctor.
Right.
The title of this chapter, The Great Knot, is a metaphor for the universe using the Doctor's scarf.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a civilization that lived on one tassel, they would eventually discover there were other tassels, and beyond the Great Knot was an infinity of a scarf. So it's like, I want to do something real profound here and turn the doctor's scarf into a metaphor. Chapter 41, The Most Important Man in the Universe. The doctor goes back to Earth and finds Romana, and he mentions that he has learned that he is the most important man of the universe, but he does not know why.
So again, that's like the vortex reference, right? I mean, that's
it's
the same
because he's
thing.
in an artificial universe created.
Right.
Yeah, it's Zaphod in the vortex.
Right.
Back on Krikkit, the chief elder is depressed because her battle fleets have been destroyed and their new god has deserted them. She met again with Ridgefield and Wedgwood, who tried to spin it. A crushing defeat is something everyone can really rally around. Also, don't worry about the rumor of a god's demise. Create the myth of the return. That's always a good one. The second coming of the great prophet Zarquan?
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't, at some point, Goss introduces those two gentlemen as Jehovah's Witnesses?
I think he compares them to them, yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So the Doctor, Romana, and K9, they go back to Lord's Cricket Ground, which is now a muddy mess after the fire department put out the fires from their previous visit.
I wonder here, too, with the timing, is this after the explosion in the sky, which froze the Krikkitmen, or before it, or where are they in time now?
Don't know. I don't know where, theoretically, that should have all been happening at the same time. But yeah, I blocked that out of my head. I forgot about the giant explosion in the frozen cricket ships that are always moving but going nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The doctor brought the trophy with the ashes back to them. The doctor announced he wants to be able to say he has bowled at Lord's Cricket Ground. And a slumped-over cricketer got up and stood at the wicket. As he ran, he looked at the batsman straight in the eyes, but he has no eyes because it's an empty shell of a suit, and it's a cricket man who seems to be active, even though all the others were shut off a long time ago and exploded. But there's still one left?
Yeah.
Is this one a sentient one?
Yeah. Something like that.
Right.
I don't know. That's why I wondered about the timing. Is it before Romana saved the Earth, and after?
Yeah.
And before the Krikkitmen were actually turned off forever? And
So even though the Krikkitmen were turned off, he went back in time, so there's still an active Krikkitman that's going to end the universe? Time travel troubles.
Yeah, okay. Someone should have put this on a graph paper or something, figured out whether it works.
Yeah. So conversations from a recent past run through his mind, and his words come back to haunt him that are, if you are clever, you can get your opponent to all your work for you. He realized that the cricket ball he found in his pocket was the supernova bomb, and after he threw the ball, the doctor kept running, and the ball bounced on the ground in front of the batsman, and it skipped under his bat and knocked a bail down. The cricket man was called out, and I'm not quite sure, the referee just showed up, and it turned to swing at the wicketkeeper. But the doctor swiped the bat, and he swung, and he cut the head off the robot. And again, this was all just like the end of life.
That's right. Our superhero returns.
Yes.
And takes the final swipe.
Yes. Chapter 42, The Meaning of Life. Now that the ashes of the wooden pillar have been returned to Earth, the doctor is now going to return all of the pieces to the key to the rightful planets. While returning the steel pillar, he was on a bench and holding a peanut in one hand and a large bird in the other. He was on the planet with the Great Khan, and Romana was distressed because his ships were approaching, and she was disappointed that the Khan would steal the pillar. Is that a pun? Right after it was returned. So the doctor was trying to coax the birds into the TARDIS,
right,
so he could save them by bringing them to a deserted island.
The next time birds.
The what? The next time birds?
The next time birds, that's what they were calling them.
Yes.
Because every time they try to get up enough energy to try to fly, they would fail. So they kept thinking to themselves, oh, maybe the next time I'll be able to fly.
That's right. That's right. Well, Khan's entire fleet started sinking because the Doctor infested them with woodworm. Now that the inhabitants of the planet Devlin have gone back to the water, there was a lovely island for the birds. Mm-hmm. When he released them, the birds started flying for the first time because there's slightly less gravity on that planet.
Right.
He found a way to work in flying for the first time.
I know, but I still don't get why the Doctor goes through all the trouble of moving the birds, but okay. Maybe he's just trying to be nice.
Because he had to work away flying for the first time. Like Arthur flew for the first time.
Oh, there you go. So he's just trying to jam that in there for you. Okay, that works.
That's right. There was no mention of how he returned the gold bale. Like all the other planets, they talk about what he does. So they go to the easily offended planet of Morivi 2 to return the Perspex pillar. The planet is in bad shape, but nobody will be civil enough to accept it. The Doctor is getting yelled at as soon as they arrive, so he basically just throws it out of the TARDIS on the ground.
Well, you know what? I want to comment about the Morivi 2.
Sure.
Okay, because, and I probably should have said it earlier, but I didn't think about it until a little bit later. It's got to be a little bit weird. I mean, Khan's planet has the steel pillar,
yeah,
right? And they're constantly at war, right?
Right.
And Beth Selleman has this the Bale of Peace.
Yeah.
And they're constantly peaceful and tranquil. Yes. But this planet, Morivi 2, has the Bale of Justice.
Yes.
But they're constantly bickering and arguing with each other. That doesn't track. It's supposed to be the opposite of that. There's supposed to be a very just world, if that's where the symbol of justice comes from. So that world is backwards compared to everything else.
Unless, even though it is called the Pillar of Justice, or if it's to represent, it seems that it more represents the procedure of court.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Everything's an argument.
I guess so. I'll accept that.
It's a bastardization of what it should mean. But I think that's what they were going for.
All right. Well, to that end, I will accept your humble explanation.
Yeah.
Because I do think I see what you're going with, and that makes sense.
Right. Everybody wants to sue everybody. Everybody's taking everybody to court.
Silly. It should have been the other way around.
But that's not what it should mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Romana returned the silver bale to the ambassador of Beth Selleman, and while admiring a sunset, Romana mentioned he should go into the tourist trade. At a dark end of the universe, 11 war TARDISes are upset because they were expecting glorious, unending battle and didn't get it. As they started experiencing despair, the darkness manifested itself into the Black Guardian. When the TARDISes focused on it, it disappeared. Right then, Ridgefield and Wedgwood show up in a small ship and ask the TARDISes if they ever considered rebranding. Back on Cricket, the Doctor and Romana are relaxing on deck chairs, watching Sir Robot teach children the game of cricket. Romana wondered what happened to Hector. The Doctor told her that he adapted the supernova bomb, and Hector and the War TARDIS will get their last wish. They look up at the sky and saw the dust cloud implode on itself, revealing the whole of the universe to the planet who thought, it'll have to do.
And is that what we think at the end of this story, it'll have to do?
No, at the end of the story, I thought, well, I know why this script was rejected.
It didn't take me all the way to the end to get there, but I agree with you.
No.
I was thinking that, where did I say I was thinking about that? At chapter 11, I think it was, somewhere around there. Yeah.
I think you couldn't take it about there, yes. So my first question is, who's the Black Guardian? And where
Yeah.
did the Black Guardian come from? And is this the voice that appeared to those two different times?
Yeah, see, here's my understanding, and I could be wrong. I don't know who the Black Guardian is. You'd have to go to Doctor Who history to figure it out. But I think when Doctor Who is talking about having changed the supernova bomb, he somehow squelched this voice of the Black Guardian. So, I mean, that's the implication that I got from the read.
Okay.
That when the supernova bomb goes off, the Black Guardian's voice shuts down also. So it's a simultaneous event that the implosion of Haktar, the cloud, and the Black Guardian's voice go away at the same time. Probably if we had done our research, and I probably should have looked it up because I didn't, we'd figure out who the heck the Black Guardian is.
Right.
But yes, I think that was supposed to be the voice that they heard and the voice that was repeated and the little pieces of the puzzle that are hanging out there. I think that's who that's supposed to be.
So that then brings up the question that I have of, who is this for? What is the target audience? Is it Douglas Adams fans or is it Doctor Who fans? And somehow I think he went for both and got neither. If it's for Douglas Adams fans, you need to explain who the Black Guardian is, because
right, that's a good point.
If it's something that only is known by the purest of Doctor Who people, then it just makes you scratch your head going, I don't understand.
I agree with you.
If it's for Doctor Who people, then they don't get all the jokes.
No. And here's what I was thinking, and again, I didn't do the research, so I don't know the answer to this, but he's done a lot of Doctor Who novelizations and Doctor Who stuff. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, many of the things that he references in this particular story are from his own creation of Doctor Who stuff.
Okay.
So I think he's taking pieces of his own work and jamming it in there so that it all becomes a cohesive Doctor Who story. I feel a little bad because I only have this one experience of reading something written by James, so I don't know what his style is all about. And I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to tell because, as I said in the original podcast, he's a fanboy, and his own style, his own voice. That's why I talked about that way at the beginning with Jean, and her voice and things of that nature. I feel bad that I'm upset about the way this whole story came together, but I don't know his voice, and I certainly did not hear Douglas Adams's voice when I read, listened, and reviewed this particular story. So to answer your question, I don't know who the audience was, because the answer you gave was the perfect one. It didn't appeal to both or either.
Right.
Right. I don't know what to say.
Not that there's an answer to this, or the possibility of this, but would you like to now see the original writings? They have to exist somewhere. Not that they're published, but somewhere in some library has to be the original movie script that I think would be the thing that would be most interesting to read to find out his idea.
Oh, yes, 100%. I would really love to see that, because that would tell us the answer to the burning questions that I have, and mine really go to how much of this script or how much of this story is story written by Adams compared to story that's written by James. So, yeah, I definitely would like to see that. I don't know that it would exist beyond a treatise, like a few pages. Do you think he wrote the entire movie script out?
I don't know. I don't know how much you write. You got to have something.
You do, and I think what I've heard, and I'm I've never pitched a movie in my life, but every time you watch a show, they talk about the elevator pitch. If it's too long to explain to someone what you want to do on an elevator ride,
right? Well,
then it's too long for a movie to be produced.
If his elevator pitch had something to do with a race of people who wanted to wipe out the universe, the people of Doctor Who would say, we already have the Daleks. We don't need another race that's going to wipe out the universe.
And the Cybermen.
And the Cybermen. Well, the Cybermen want to assimilate.
Yeah.
The Daleks want to exterminate.
Well, okay.
So they're...
Yep, you're right.
They're two different... The end is really the same for everybody else, but they are different. They don't need a third.
I was really hoping that when I listened to this story, read this story, that they had taken the concept of the Krikkitmen and made them into a race or a group of people. That's wrong. They were robots, but they made them into a character set that could be analogous to the Daleks or the Cybermen, so that they could have had a running story about the universe's need for protection and Doctor Who's niggling little way of fixing things.
Right. Yes.
But that's not really what I got.
No, it definitely is not. I read none. I read no fan fiction. I don't go to different sites to find out what people are writing about my favorite shows or properties. I don't want to necessarily hear all that, but I believe now that you have said this is what I have just read. This is a piece of fan fiction that's hybridized of both.
Right, and it's definitely authorized, if you will.
Yes.
So it goes that one step above. But you're right, that's the way I feel. Before we did this, I thought, maybe he could just record this one on his own. I'm glad we didn't do that, but I thought about it because, there was so much.
Hi there, this is Jeff. I am going to be doing this podcast about Doctor Who and the Krikkitmen on my own. Bryan couldn't be here, and you'll know why in a minute. It will become obvious as you listen. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for Doctor Who and the Krikkitmen. Thanks again for listening to this. We know this was we'll just say, long-worded one. The next time it's going to be much easier. We're actually going to be sticking with the same general story ideas because we're going to be doing the third radio series, the tertiary phase, which is going to be the radio adaptation of Life, the Universe, and Everything. Come back first Thursday of next month. So, say goodbye, Bryan.
Okay, Jeff, I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope this wasn't boring. And that you know the difference between a kettle and a puppy.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. Look for us the first Thursday of every month for a full episode. We will also release a bonus episode later in the month. A very special thanks goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. We would also like to thank our talented friends and family for their voice work on our introductions and commercials. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettynneatidea.buzzsprout.com, where you can find links to all my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube as Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea, on Instagram as Watches Idea Podcast, and on Twitter at Watches Idea. If you'd like to contact us, our email is digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com.
This has been a Froods for Thought production.